Hey everyone, welcome to the Tower of Babel Game of Thrones breakdown for Season 4, Episode 9. The penultimate episode for this season, The Watchers on the Wall. Typically, the 9th episode for every season's been like the big episode. This season's kind of turned things on its head and had like big events happen and big shocking things happen throughout the season. But this one still managed to top it. Isn't the word I was looking for, because it's different than all those other things that happened this season. But it managed to still be
a significant,
like important, and something you'll remember. It's like the Blackwater episode from that's season 2 already.
Yeah.
Like times 100, I'd say. You know, although much harder to. I'll get into this. Let me just get all the. Let me get into all
formalities.
Get all that out of the way. If you guys is the first time you're here, you're a big Game of Thrones fan, make sure to read Daniel's written reviews on our site at www.towerbabelpodcast.com. That's where you can also find our other podcast, the Tower Babel podcast, where we talk about all nerdy things. We just geek out over pretty much everything that we like. So make sure to check that out as well, and then follow us on Twitter at Tower Babelcast, and it's the same thing for Facebook, facebook.com/Tower Babelcast. Okay. Now we got that out of the way, we can get into this week's episode. And I've been, for those of you who follow video game stuff, it was E3 kicks off tomorrow, being Tuesday. We're recording this on Monday. So all the big press conferences are today. So Sony and Microsoft and EA and Ubisoft all had theirs. Nintendo goes tomorrow. And I've been literally sitting in front of my computer writing news stories since 10:30 this morning for my site that I write for. It's not my site, but I contribute to Continue Play. So if you guys want to go check out that stuff over there. Point being, I haven't had a chance to do the show notes. So Daniel did them this week. So I think, Dan, you're gonna have to lead me through the events of this episode again. Also, I didn't get a chance to really sit down and really digest everything. I mean, I did kind of last night, but I was also drinking, so that doesn't, So
I'll try to do it with as little cynicism as I can, but I really didn't like this episode that much. So.
Okay. Well, that's awkward. No, that's fine. We'll go scene by scene, and then we'll save your final thoughts. I guess you don't have to save them for the end. Just we'll do it how we normally do it, and save the final thoughts for the end. So, this is what they call a bottle episode. Where everything happens in the same place.
It's all at Castle Black in the north.
Yeah. We get the regular intro, and we see all the places that we saw in the last week with Moat Cailin and all that stuff. We don't go to any of those places, and we don't visit anything or anyone. We don't deal with any of the fallout from last week's big fight,
Yeah.
But we get a whole different kind of fight. So I don't know what your major complaint is about this episode. Mine is that it's just really hard to see what's going on for most of the time. It's just really dark. I turned up the brightness on my television at one point because I couldn't see. I literally went down and turned off all the lights so it was as dark as possible, and I turned up the brightness, and I still could barely tell what was happening a lot of the time.
Nah, it's a lot of blacks and grays and whites in that part of the world.
If it was only blacks and whites, you'd be able to tell, but it's like blacks on blacks,
Well, at nighttime, yeah.
Yeah, so that's my major complaint. Most of the rest of the stuff I really did like. But how does it start? Where do we start, Dan?
It starts with Sam and Jon on the wall. They're, getting ready for the attack. They have the watch, and Sam's asking Jon about love and sex and stuff. Because Sam's never been with a woman, and he feels like he's about to die, so he kind of wants to at least understand it a little bit. And Jon kind of shrugs it off. Not a big deal. Says all his problems, all it got him was an arrow 6 inches from his heart. Something like that.
Which is true. I mean,
you can tell that Jon doesn't want to talk about it,
I don't think he's not really he's like he says, he's not really a poet,
Yeah, exactly.
He's not really eloquent enough to describe that. He wanted, what the sense, he's like, what was the size of her feet?
Yeah.
Sam, you're being a weirdo. Don't be a weirdo. I know you're already a weirdo, but come on. It's you don't kiss and tell, I guess, is Jon's philosophy.
Respectable.
Yeah.
So then after that, they kind of walk around, and Jon says that he'll take the watch and says, Sam, go to bed. kind of deal.
Which is well, there's a lot of that. I actually really like this scene. I think it's a good bonding scene for the two
Yeah,
of them.
yeah. It's good. Like we haven't had a lot of them together since they've been back from their trip north of the wall. You
Yeah,
know.
and we got to see the top of the wall again for the first time. That we see a lot of it in this
A
episode,
lot
which
of
is fine. But we hadn't seen it in a long time. I'm still not quite sure how the whole elevator system works.
Yeah, you know what? That doesn't make a lot of sense, does it?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't make any sense.
A child can apparently turn the thing to make it
In the
go up and
books,
down.
it's like there's men at the top, and then it's a winch, and they have to like pull it like you're putting it in like a ground anchor or something. You know?
Yeah.
But in this, you just press a button.
Well, it's not it's not quite. Although I don't know how he signals to like go down. Like he just gets in. Sam gets into the elevator, right? They like walk up to it. He gets in and then it just starts to go down. Like he knew, like he didn't. There was no signal. He didn't like pull on a rope or something.
Yeah. You just have to not think about it too.
Also, and like
much.
the other times, it's like you get down pretty quick, and up pretty quick.
Yeah, it's a 700-foot wall, and it's going pretty slow when it starts and finishes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just imagine them like while the fighting's going on, just in that elevator.
I imagine that there's like a slow elevator music playing like the whole time, like do 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 do, and they just like literally are the most impatient. That John, in fact, jumps out at halfway because he's
he does. That's pretty badass.
I know halfway, not quite, but like really close to the ground. Anyway, that scene was good. Liked Sam actually gets a lot of character development in this episode.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, good because he didn't die. Spoilers. He does spoilers for the episode we're
really
talking
made it
about.
feel like he was gonna die. They they amped up the whole thing about I'm not leaving you, Gilly, and stuff like that, and then he leaves her in the room. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So what happens next? Where do we move from here?
Sam, rather than going to bed, decides to go and do some late night reading about wildlings and like what they do to their prisoners. Just some random crap because he's not. I don't know. He's not ready for bed. And then Maester Aemon comes in, can tell that it's him because he's the only one that would be there reading at that time, and starts to have a cool little talk with him, and then tells him to go to bed again.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, you kind of jumped over some stuff, but like, was Maester Aemon always blind? Like I didn't. First of all, I didn't know that. Like, did they make that clear like before?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I don't pay attention. But they haven't really touched on it again, right? Like he kind of moves around like he's not blind.
He's so used to that place.
Okay, I guess. And also, did they make it clear that he was Maester Aemon Targaryen before?
For sure.
No way they said that.
Also, in season 1, he has a big talk with Jon where he reveals who he is and that he was meant to be king and he chose not to be.
I don't know how I don't remember. It's season 1, Dan. I haven't rewatched that season, I guess, in a long time. It seemed like that was a big deal. Like that was cool to me. Only because I guess for me that was like a first time, even though for everyone else watching who actually knows what they're talking about, it wasn't.
It was much cooler reveal in season 1. They did a better job. It wouldn't just be like that.
I think what it is that in season 1, I don't know. I have nothing to base that information on.
Yeah.
He could say I was Aemon Targaryen. That means nothing to me if I don't have any further knowledge about why that's important or why that's a big deal. 4 seasons in, we've got lots of backstory about like the Targaryens and all that kind of stuff. And now, I completely forgot about that. And then we get back to that. He reveals it again, or I guess not a reveal, but he says it to Sam, and it actually has more weight to it this time because I actually have some background.
Fair enough, I guess. But yeah, everybody else knew that already.
Okay. Anyway, all right. I don't know. Either way, I think that's really cool.
I love Maester Aemon. He's a really cool character. I like characters like the older characters that have that perspective of the history and stuff like that.
So what was he doing the whole fight? Is he just like in that room, like just in his bedroom, the library?
It's not like he can swing a sword, right? Like he's tending to the ravens, doing what he's doing. Like he probably would be like when. Again, later on in the episode, Sam mentions Maester Aemon being there to heal people. Like that's what Maesters do. Mm-hmm. So he's probably helping the wounded in some capacity.
That would make sense. My question is, they've known about this attack being imminent for like a while, right?
Yeah.
So like, and they have ravens there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why didn't they ask for some backup?
They did a lot. Basically all leading up to this point, they've been asking everybody everywhere for men.
Well, that's not clear. So they do send that message out at the end of season. Is it end of season 3? Where Stannis
Oh yeah, yeah.
Remember, like that's the last thing I remember them saying.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly how clear they made it, but yeah, that letter was sent basically to everyone.
Okay, sure,
But it,
but we
yeah,
ought to also know like tell me if no if they people didn't respond, at least show people like I guess how do you
yeah.
show people not responding, but like at least make it clear, say a line of dialogue saying, hey, we've asked for help and no one's giving any,
I believe I want to say in season two they did have one of those when Tyrion was like the acting hand, and he was in the council chamber with like Cersei, Varys, and all of them,
Yeah,
the small council. They briefly mentioned it and they all kind of played it off because none of them really care about that.
sure,
I
but
feel like that happened.
when you say, hey guys, we only have 100 people here and there's 100,000 heading to the wall, like if you tell them that there's like a reason to care, someone might care.
You'd hope so,
Like
but
what's
they all have their own things to care
well,
about, their own wars to fight.
what's his name over at Dreadfort up to other than kicking out like the couple hundred Ironborn out of the north? Like nothing, right?
Yeah, but he doesn't care about anything that's going on. They probably got a letter too. He just doesn't care to go up there. He's doing his thing.
What is his thing? Going to Winterfell and
He's
hanging
taking out
out?
the Ironborn and being the Warden of the North. The thing is, nobody takes the Night's Watch seriously. Nobody believes that there are 100,000 wildlings. I think that they're just saying that because they need men because they've been asking for men forever.
Mm, that's true.
Nobody believes that anybody could actually get over the wall. Nobody believes there could actually be a threat on the other side of that wall.
Well, I guess we'll see if maybe that changes. Following this week's episode, I don't know. I like usually the 10th episode does a good job of playing on the fallout. And there's 2 episodes now of fallout that they need to
Yeah,
deal with.
Well, I mean, this was nothing's resolved at the end of this episode either.
Well, yeah, actually, more questions are raised, really.
Yeah.
But again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So what happens after the Sam? He's reading his little book. He's reading. I like the line about him, like all these things that the wildlings do, and he's like, what do they think that the wildlings say that we do?
Yeah.
Which is it makes sense. Obviously, it's gonna be out of hand. Like what does he say? Like they'll boil you alive, make you last for days or whatever. Which he says at like the end, but like
It says at the end as well. It's just
Yeah.
probably something that he read in that book. Yeah.
yeah. But either way, Sam then goes. He's told to go to bed, and on his way, I guess we see Gilly at the gate.
Well, before that, there's like a little scene with the wildlings
Oh,
themselves. Like it's really not even important. It's Ygritt fletching arrows.
no,
and
no,
then-
that scene's is that no, that's after that, isn't it?
no, because Gilly walks by when they're all fighting.
Oh, really? I didn't see
It's
that.
stupid. It's so
I honestly
stupid.
I didn't even see that. Was I supposed to notice that she had walked
Yes, you
by?
were. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's Ygritte fletching arrows, and then Stir calls her out and says that he doesn't believe she would kill John or anything like that, and they all have a whole. They go. She gets up in his grill kind of deal, and then there's Gilly walking behind. You can't really tell it's Gilly, but it's a lady with a baby in a cloak.
Oh, okay. Didn't
So-
notice that. Odd that she would choose to walk right by
Exactly.
them.
And odd that they wouldn't notice, and everything about it was pretty dumb.
Oh, okay. See, like that scene didn't bother me because I didn't know that was happening in the background. Well, yeah, that's odd. Like there was when you like they do that cool pan up shot like a little bit later where they pan up from where like the wildlings are camped out outside of Castle Black and pans
Yeah.
up over towards like the other side of the wall.
Yeah.
You can see that there's like a massive area on like to the east.
Yeah.
That they could just like she could have just avoided that whole like group of them altogether.
Yeah, for sure. There's plenty of other ways to get there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I saw. What do you write? Ygritte is fletching more arrows than is appropriate.
That's, they have an issue with her fletching all these arrows, which doesn't make sense. You need arrows. But
Yeah. But they just. I
Some
think they
for
like
whatever
to.
reason.
I think they like to complain about everything. Is
Yeah.
really what it comes down to. They don't live a very comfortable life, Dan. I don't know if you noticed. They cut scars into their face. Anyway, so Gilly sneaks by, and then.
She makes it to the.
Well, I know this is the first time we've actually spent any time with Ygritte since like for a long time.
We've seen her do a lot of killing.
Yeah, and this is her just trying to act tough.
Yeah.
Turns out, well, we'll get there. So then Sam makes
Well, Pip won't open the gate for her because he was ordered not to, and Sam actually like grows some balls and says,
yeah.
"Open the fucking gate." And it's pretty good to see Sam
I thought for
a
sure
little more assertive.
that like something was gonna happen because I didn't notice the whole like I knew Gilly was there, And then they did the scene with the wildlings, right? So I thought for sure that like maybe they followed them, and like that when he opened the gate, like that would be like Sam like losing the battle for them, like just by this one move. Turns out that didn't happen, but it wouldn't have surprised me if that had happened. And then makes this big speech about not letting her,
not leaving her.
Not
ever,
leaving
yeah.
her. Yeah.
Wherever she goes, he goes.
And then and then immediately leaves her.
Well, yeah. The horn blasts twice for wildlings, and then he has to take her to a room for her to be safe, and then leaves her there.
Yeah. So some back room. Apparently, there's only one back room in Castle Black. So a back room, and then this is where like it really starts to get moving. So we have it kind of like pans up and shows like a reddish color in the sky. And I'm like, okay, finally we're gonna see this bonfire, the biggest bonfire
fire the North has ever seen.
Okay, so we get this cool pan up from the wildlings on the south of the wall, and they like kind of start running. And this is this episode more than any, you really see the money that they spend on the show like right on screen. So they pull up, and it's a one pan shot. You see you see Castle Black. It goes up over the wall, like super close to the wall, and then shows us pretty much an entire forest on fire. I was expecting something different. I mean, forest fires are cool, but I mean, I've seen forest fires before. I was like, want to see like a really big explosion or something. I don't know.
I don't know. Everything about this episode for me, it was. I wrote this underwhelming. Like I imagine it would be probably a bigger fire from the ground level where the wildlings are. So it makes sense, but from on top of the wall, it didn't really look like much, and it didn't really look intimidating or anything.
Well, it was pretty intimidating. It was a giant fire. It was a forest. Pretty much the entire forest was on fire. But I mean, like I wanted it to be more big than or tall than it was like long. You know.
Yeah. But I mean, like, what are you gonna light on fire?
That's that big? Yeah, I don't know. So then you get some like really cool shots of like the wildling army coming out of the forest. You have like you see the Night's Watch like preparing on the top of the wall. They got barrels full of stuff. I guess like oil and stuff, right? Is that the idea?
Some of them are barrels of like oil or pitch that they can light. Some of them are just barrels of rocks and ice just to drop on motherfuckers.
Yeah, that's okay, cool. And then so they got that. They're lighting torches. I guess the idea is to make it look like there's more of them on the roof on the wall than there actually is. Which I thought made
pretty smart.
A smart idea. And you have who's manning the wall? It's
Sir Alistair Thorne has the command, and so he's just yelling and swearing at everybody, and it's pretty. I think he did a great job this episode.
Yeah, I agree. Awesome. You don't like this character a lot, but this episode he did some pretty badass stuff, and he actually had said some redeeming moments. And it's not clear to me if he died or not at the end. I think he was more injured than he was dead.
Yeah, he was taken out of the fight, but
he has a great line where he's talking to John, and he's saying, you were right. You did the old, I told you so. Essentially, you can say I told you so because you were right. We should have sealed the tunnel when they had the chance. And then my question is, this is my question: why didn't they seal the tunnel at that point? Like, they had explosives. Right in those barrels.
No, what I think what they wanted to do was put rocks and then water so it would freeze. Because you don't want to light explosives under the wall. There, you could accidentally blow up a large chunk of the wall.
I guess that'd be
like their whole plan was to flood it for it to seal. So that takes.
Well, where would they get water like that?
Well, there's plenty of ice all over the place. They just have to melt the water down and then it freeze again or something.
I don't know. That seems like they don't have hoses.
That's why it would take a long time.
Yeah, they would take like years.
To freeze off like sections, I guess. I don't know.
I feel like the idea would be to collapse the tunnel.
And that would be a fair point because you don't really need to collapse like the one side and you're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
But they still didn't do it.
It's okay. Maybe later. There's still time. So they're preparing for battle, and I really like. This is where it being super dark gets really hard to see what's going on. You like a lot of the time you actually have no idea what's happening. It's like people are moving, people are moving like urgently. You still don't quite get a sense of how many actual like Night's Watch there is, even though they told us last episode, or not last episode, the episode before that. But it seemed like there was more than 100. If like at least, it's hard to tell, but it seemed like there was
for sure hard to tell, and also because their forces are split between the bottom and the top, right? Mm-hmm. But at about 100.
So I love and then who's the other guy from Kingsguard?
Yeah, Janos Slint from
okay, so
City
he comes up because they said they're losing the gate downstairs because they start using like actually back up a little bit here. There's another scene and it's Sam and he's talking with Pip about like essentially it's a lot of like talking about like mortality and like like living and not having lived long enough. And this was another great scene. I like how like they don't really tell you, but they just show you like how all the archers have like 2 crossbows, and then so you have one being loaded while the other one's being fired, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So Sam was loading for Pip, and Pip can't do shit. He's freaking out because he's never been in a fight before.
Yeah, and he's missing a lot. Yeah. Pip then like not right away, but then Pip does die.
It's sad
in a pretty brutal way too. The arrow through his like throat essentially. Yeah. From Ygritt. Apparently, it's the only archer that the wildlings have. Who's
on that side of
who's
the
also
wall.
really good.
Yeah.
But I like this whole part is harder to talk about because it's like this episode's hard to talk about because it's all essentially one big scene, and we usually talk about it scene by scene. I'll just kind of like throw in the things I remember, like when he was talking to Slint, when John's talking to Slint because Thorn went downstairs, or downstairs. Can I call it downstairs?
You can say downstairs.
You went downstairs, so and he's like, there's giants riding mammoths down there. And I was like, you know what? When he puts it like that in his British accent, it sounds way more like badass than even just looking at giants riding mammoths, because like it just looks, even though you in your mind it makes sense, it's a giant elephant with fur and there's a man on top riding it like it's a pony. I guess just the way they filmed it, it didn't seem as imposing and cool as I would have thought. Or could have, I guess, like when you say it's not, what was the word you used? Underwhelming. As cool
I think
as
a lot
it
of
was
those
to
problems
see.
are because you're on top of the wall and everything they look like ants. Even if you're a mammoth, you look like a bigger ant.
I guess that's true.
But also, like the other thing that what made it so underwhelming is like there was one singular mammoth, and 2 giant.
Mammoth now.
Exactly. I know. They said that this is just their preliminary attack, but like you would think they would have had more to show.
Which, by the way, when they did that, when they at the end when they said, this was just
they were just feeling it out,
and you're like, oh shit, because like the whole time you're thinking like this is it, and then whoa, turns out no, it's not, and you actually you have a lot more to deal with a lot less people.
It seemed like they lost at least half their men.
Yeah,
in the preliminary attack.
Although like. That's what I mean. Like, if you could seal the tunnel, the stuff that you can do from the top of that wall is like crazy good. Like, it would be almost impossible. And this is, I guess, the whole idea of a 700-foot ice wall comes into like that. It would be almost impossible to get over it. When you have a giant like swinging blade that cuts through, and like, how could you even climb it? Like, you just rinse it back up and again, do it again. Like, I guess you could climb up if I was a wildling, there's like how many other castles?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they don't really talk about that. The whole thing is that Castle Black is like the easiest way through.
Okay, but like, so there's all these other castles that don't have anyone at them. Not that they know that, but like you could pretty much figure that one out pretty quick when none of the other castles light torches when you walk up to them.
Yeah, but they're pretty spread out. Like you would have to move your army.
There's 100,000 of them.
West. Yeah.
So you keep a couple thousand to distract
for sure.
Castle Black, and you just climb up the wall somewhere else.
But
and
again,
then it's not even an issue.
As far as they know, all the castles are manned, and they don't want to split their force to do that.
Well, I mean, you just have to take it on. I know, but like, military strategy, if this is your feeling out, wouldn't you try to feel out the other castles too, and just to see how well fortified those ones are? And turns out, and then by after tonight, you would say, okay, only Castle Black is fortified. So
the other thing they don't mention this in the show either. The other castles that have been abandoned sealed their tunnels.
Okay, obviously,
but I guess I don't think the wildlings would have known that, so it doesn't really.
They wouldn't know that, and you could just if they're climbing the wall anyway, which is like they were pretty quick at it apparently. These ones, if they're climbing the wall anyway, then like just climb it somewhere else. That's what I would like, where there isn't a giant swinging blade. You know.
Yeah.
By the way, when that happens, when it like comes out of the fucking ice like that was so cool.
Pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah. I saw like a tweet or whatever. It's like they're like so much for the wall defending itself, because they always say like the wall's its own defense, but like that's not quite the wall's own defense. That's just a fucking massive blade. I also really liked like the exploding barrels and that one that estate that got stuck. Yeah. That was pretty cool.
The giant archer was the best.
Oh yeah, that was. Oh my god!
Shit.
He like does this like one knee, and it's like a harpoon, and it hits a guy, right?
The first one doesn't, and the second one just destroys this guy.
It goes like poof, and then he lands. It was really cool. It follows it, and it goes all the way down and follows it down. It lands like, and then the best, it lands right next to a guy. He looks at it. And then he keeps running. Like that, like who cares? Like I just saw a man fall from the sky with a giant harpoon. And also felt like the wildlings breached the southern gate really quickly, you know, like even though they had what's it called? Grappling hooks, I guess. Yeah. Like I feel like that's harder to do than they made it seem.
Well, it was guys like Pip defending them, right?
That's true.
It wasn't like their strongest force down there, so they took it pretty quickly. And as Tormund, Styr defends, they're pretty seasoned fighters. So I bought that one.
Mm-hmm. All right. What else stand out in this?
Well, I mean, we didn't really talk. Like, it's hard to talk because it's a lot of fighting and not talking. So you can just
you can say so. Fighting happened, and then fighting.
Sir Alistair fought Tormund. That was pretty cool.
That was a super cool fight, and you actually could see somewhat what was going on because there's torches down there. Which is helpful.
Yeah. He was injured. He's taken out. Slint was all shell shocked and couldn't believe that there were giants down there. He said mammoths don't exist, so that's impossible. Shot's like, they're right fucking there. So
you know what we should talk about that because and then what's his name? The other
Gren,
because they're like the only three Night's Watchmen that we meet. He's like, oh yeah, hey. Thorn needs it downstairs. Pretty urgent. He's like, oh yeah, okay. And then like they all rally around Jon.
Yeah.
Jon
takes the command.
Which is, you know, pretty cool. You know,
someone's got to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like it's kind of been waiting for this for a long time. It's like it's about time that he kind of like took over. Even though you got to admit that Alistair Thorne did a pretty good job while he was up there.
Yeah. And all Jon's job really was knock, draw, loose, but
I guess.
But still, it was epic. Yeah, I agree.
No, I mean, I think it's okay. You could say that's his only job, but like he's also to be like inspiring is also his job, and that he did I think a really good job of that. And I want to talk about that conversation he has with Thorne earlier that we kind of skipped over. I thought that was a really great scene. Like
it was,
and especially like Thorne's like speech about how like. You know, second guessing yourself, and when you second guess yourself, then it's over. You know,
what it takes to be a leader.
Yeah, but it's like, which I think Jon slowly is learning, but I don't think he's quite there yet, full on. But what he says about not so much confused me, but it seemed like to contradict itself. He's like, you know, you were right about the whole tunnel thing, you know, and. I'm in charge, and when I start second guessing myself, that's when bad things happen. It's like, well, so you're saying that like, and that's the end. So it's like, so you're second guessing yourself now, but then he ends the speech by saying, but it's not the end yet. So are you second guessing yourself or not? Like I don't know. The speech is still good. It's just confusing.
I think it's about like he is second guessing himself, but he can't let the men know that he's second guessing himself, or else they won't actually like
Yeah.
trust in what he's saying.
And then he later on goes down there and has like a really
Yeah.
sick
Speech
like
saying the castle in the morning, Castle Black will still be here, and so will the Night's Watch, something like
yeah,
that.
and then like he's like on
Kicks a bunch
me,
of
and then it
men.
goes and kills a bunch of wildlings, which is pretty
Yeah.
sick. That whole pretty much the coolest part was anything that was happening on the bottom. Actually, that's not true because I really liked what
No.
was happening at the top. The fighting, like hand to hand combat was really cool. Down on the bottom. So before we get to one of the bigger scenes, do we miss anything? I don't think so.
Just a lot of fighting, a lot of arrows.
Yeah, and like apparently people aren't very good at like. I love that when they're like just standing there, all the wildlings, and they're just all just getting picked off. Like they're just literally just standing there going yeah, and like their buddy would just get hit by an arrow, and they'd be like, and then the other guy would be like yeah, hit by an arrow. Instead of just like taking us like they're on fire, you can see them like coming. By the way, what's the purpose? Oh, so that when you kill them, it lights their body on fire, so they don't come back from the dead. Is that the purpose of having
No,
your fire? What's the purpose of having your?
it's kind of in other situations, it's like considered an honorable thing to do. When you don't light them on fire, they're called night arrows, and it's kind of like a coward's tactic. But
Oh,
that's not what's happening here. Also, in terms of being able to judge your shot, being able to see your range and stuff like that, you need to be able to track your
oh,
arrow.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that whole night arrow thing. That's cool. I think at this point, I think being honorable is not quite.
That's not even like I just that's a
That's
real
like a
life
real
thing.
thing. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's your history lesson for the day, folks. So we have Ygritt. She killed like a lot of guys in this episode. Like
Yeah,
at
she used
least
all
like
those
at
arrows.
least like 10 at least, right?
Yeah.
And so she finally sees John fighting, who loses his sword,
Yeah.
which was
To stir the Magnar, then he's fighting.
yeah. So he kills him with a hammer, which is pretty brutal. And then so she comes up behind him, and then she can't do it. She's standing there, bow drawn, and she can't do it. And then she's killed by that kid who.
It's just a stupid little kid. It doesn't.
And then he gives like a little nod too, which I
Yeah.
thought was.
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, I got your back,
back."
man."
So stupid.
And did they ever set up the fact that he was like good at like he was an archer? He like
Nope.
learned how to
No.
do those things.
But before that, all that happened. The kid was super scared. He was the one that was doing that elevator.
Yeah.
And Sam needed to go back up, and he told the kid to do the elevator, and then he said, "And kid," like basically, I'm paraphrasing. He said, "And kid, grab a weapon." And the kid looked over, and there was a bow there. And now he's this fucking
Johnny
Yes.
Archer.
Yeah.
He's Green Arrow apparently.
Like it's cool, like because the kid got revenge for his parents, I guess. But I don't know. It didn't. It could have been done better.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a bitch way to die. I mean,
Wow.
maybe that's not the right terminology to use. It just seemed like a shitty way to go out. Like
Yeah.
shot in the back by a kid.
And then in her dying breath, she reminds John of that cave that they were in, where she said she
Yeah.
never wanted to leave, and it's all sad.
Which they
and-
brought up in the previously on.
Yeah, they had to because
yeah.
people forgot about it.
Like people forget about Aegon. No big deal. It happens. So that's another big character that we haven't seen. She's gone.
Just like that.
I thought for sure that either Sam or John would die in this episode. As the episode was going on, I thought one of them might die.
Yeah,
Not like before.
they
I was
really,
thinking,
really made it seem like Sam was gonna die at
Well,
the beginning.
because like the whole like taking in Gilly and like
Just the
him
way-
finally like getting like some
I don't
courage.
know how to even describe it. Like the way that they focused on him and how he's like growing as a character and how he's like, becoming a real man. It made
Yeah, he
he was
kills a
so
guy.
triumphant.
He-
Like it was too much good for one character.
Yeah, which you're not used to in Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, he kills a guy.
Yeah,
Shoots a guy through the head.
with a crossbow. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Okay, but before that happened, like the mammoth and the giants were trying to break down that gate.
which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Pretty cool. Also, how do they just like they were picking off wildlings at the tree line, and these people just walked up to the gate untouched.
Well, they're giants. I don't know. Maybe they can take an arrow.
Yeah, they do say that the giants were pierced by a few arrows, and then they finally get to the gate and they drop a couple of those barrels on them.
Yeah, and then I don't understand what they're waiting for. Like, why didn't you do that again? After you see this guy lifting the gate, like, do it again. You know, there's
Right away,
one more right there. Just
they
like
have more barrels.
Yeah.
And one of the giants was taken out by that scorpion. That was pretty cool too.
Scorpion?
That's the thing, it's like a giant crossbow.
Oh, that's what that's called?
They're called scorpions, yeah.
They're not called that.
They're for sure called scorpions. They're like really big crossbows, and they shot a big thing and they killed the giant.
I also really like the like leaning over the edge, like arrows thing. Like they had like the guys on ropes, and then
winds, yeah.
like that was really cool. Until the guy fell.
The one guy got
Yeah. Well, that's when that thing exploded, right? Is there?
Yeah. So it killed one of the guys that was holding him.
Yeah.
Or it didn't even have to kill him. It just like moved him.
Yeah, and he fell. But either way, I thought that was like cool. You could just like lean over and like fire right down. Like they thought of everything on the top of that. Like I guess being there for that many years.
Also, like you said earlier, they had so much time to prepare. But as soon as the horns start blowing and they see people coming, they're like, "Get those barrels loaded! Let's get these barrels."
Well,
loaded.
they're not gonna leave them like in
of
there.
Course.
In like you're gonna like leave a loaded gun at the top. Like it only takes a couple minutes to load them. Like
they're giant barrels. They're heavy as shit. It took
like, how many of those barrels do they have? Like, do they have more of them? Like, that's not made clear either.
Yeah, it's not, but they have a decent amount.
Okay.
So they were spending some of the time prepping those. It felt weird that they're like, oh, they're here now, and then they're like rolling them through. Like, it didn't even have to be loaded. It could have been right next to it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
It
just seems like the logistics behind this whole thing weren't made clear. But I mean, like, the logistics of this whole world aren't necessarily always made clear. Like, how do you build a 700-foot ice wall?
Nitpicking right now.
Yeah, I know, but like, how do you even build a 700-foot ice wall? So it's like,
well, they had magic back then.
Are you going to complain about? They have magic now.
When the wall was built, there was for sure magic. The children of the forest helped. The giants helped.
Children of the forest.
Yeah.
What are those?
They've talked about that in the show a couple times.
Okay, I don't know.
They're the people that populated Westeros before the first men came to Westeros.
Oh, okay.
They're the ones who
they're like the indigenous
who worship the old gods, and they're the ones who made the weirwood trees.
You can make a weirwood tree?
Well, like they carved the faces into the weirwood trees.
I thought those just grew like that.
No.
Really? What? No.
Yeah, they carved the faces.
Okay, I didn't know that. So, what else do we have? Okay, so he sends, not Pip, it's... Gren. So, Jon sends Gren with 3 other guys, and so, not only Pip and Gren both get, like, a moment of glory before they die. Thought that we get to see Gren die, unfortunately. That would have been really cool to see, that fight, actually. Yeah. I guess they ran out of money. So, you have them go down, and they hold the second gate, which I didn't know they had. And they have like the giant. He lifts the gate finally, and he's running. And they obviously afraid, so he makes this inspired speech where he uses the oath.
Yeah,
and they kind of
recite the oath.
Yeah, and then it like cuts to black right when the giant hits the gate. We see the aftermath. He kind of bent it, and like they're all dead, which sucks.
But the giant's dead too.
Yeah, everyone's dead. And he says the whole thing about like how then they sacrificed their lives to hold the second gate, and they did.
They held the gate. That's exactly what Jon told them to do.
So is there anything else that happens in the battle that we haven't touched on? I guess we could say that Slint went down and hid in that same back room.
With Gilly.
With Gilly. Which I thought was pretty funny. Which I said, like, I guess there's only one back room. And
Jon gave Ed the command when he went down. Ed Tollett.
Oh yeah, he's the long-faced one with the long hair.
Yeah, the one that's always like droopy, and they call him Dolorous Ed because he's so like morose.
Is that from a book? Is that I don't think they ever called him that.
I think maybe they did in the show, probably not. I don't know, but that's who he is.
Okay, so it means he's taking over for.
He was just at the top of the wall. Okay. He's the one that let that like anchor thing.
So yeah, he's the one that gave the scythe, I think they called it, right?
Yeah, sure.
And then I like that you could re-winch it. I thought it was like a one-time thing, and then he's like, "Okay, bring it back up." I'm like, "Okay, sick." So
no, and then he says they've had enough for one day, so their attack's over.
Yeah. So my
Because-
question is in the aftermath of this fight, which we know is just one of probably many that will happen at the wall, which is not good, does not spell good things for the Night's Watch. Where does that leave like the command situation? So we'll get to this, but John leaves at the end of this episode, right? So
Yeah.
and then you have Thorn half dead, you know.
Yeah, it's not really clear what happens to Thorn, but
Yeah.
he is the acting commander.
And then
after.
you have Slint, who like ran away crying like a baby. So
Yeah.
I mean, no one's gonna listen to him.
I mean, there are other men they haven't really focused on or like mentioned in the show, so there is some sort of hierarchy.
Okay, so there's someone who's gonna take command, just maybe not
Yeah.
no one we've met.
Yeah.
Okay, and it might be the guy that was on the that John left in command. Is that possible?
Well, I wouldn't say so. I'd say, okay. Remember when John first came back and he was like in front of like 5 of them,
Mhm.
like a little tribunal.
Well, there's like the builder guy.
Yeah.
And like
So like, there's the 4 or the 3 orders, right? So there's Jarman Buckwell was the guy of the leader of the builders. He would be in there, you know, or the leader of the stewards is I don't remember his name.
Okay. Anyway, that's fine. And the Rangers is Thorn, right? That.
Right now, yeah.
Okay.
Just because there's no one else.
Before that was Corin Halfhand, right?
No, before that was John's uncle, Benjamin Stark.
Well, yeah, but I guess we don't know.
Halfhand
That's
was
right.
the leader from
acting
the
one?
Shadow Tower.
Oh, okay. But like, we don't know what happened with Benjamin Stark. We have, literally have is he even on the show once? Like, was he just
Not
talked
since
about?
season 1, no.
He actually is on the show at one point
In season 1, yeah.
in the first episode.
In the first couple episodes.
Okay, and then he leaves.
He's at the feast. He takes John. He's with John on the wall for a bit, and then he goes on arranging to find out what happened to Sir Waymar Royce, is the guy who died at the very first, very first scene.
Yeah, of the entire
And then-
series.
Yeah, and then you never see Benjamin Stark again. He's just missing. But the 2 whites that
Presumed
come
dead,
back,
presumably.
yeah, basically at this
Yeah.
point, the 2 that come back that try to kill the Lord Commander when John has to light it on fire and burns his hand.
Yeah.
Those were his men. Those
Okay.
are Benjamin Stark's men.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Good. Okay. I think that covers that covers all the information I think that people need to know. But let's talk about John's plan here. So he walks out to through the tunnel with Sam. They make the whole thing about they hold the second gate. He gets to the gate, the main gate, and he says to Sam that he's going out to find what's his name?
Mance Rayder.
Because he said that he brought together all the warring clans, and if he gets rid of him, he kills him, then there is no more wildling army, essentially.
Yeah, no one to unite them.
Yeah. So
Still a bad plan.
it does, yeah, like he even says it's a bad plan, right?
Like,
He says to Sam, like,
obviously,
that's a bad plan. He's like,
they're
"But-"
not going to let him close enough, as Sam says.
yeah.
They're just going to take him and kill him and like torture him. Well, why wouldn't they? What does he have to offer them?
Can he go undercover? Probably not.
Probably not. He's tried that already.
Well, no, but could he like take off the very identifying black robe and like I don't know. He didn't do that obviously, but like maybe he kills a guy.
Yeah,
and
it's not really
changes.
clear what his plan is, but it's just one man just walking out there.
Yeah, it seems like, and he says like it's such a between the Sam and John, they just don't have very good plans between the two of them. Like, God, like I'm just trying to like wrap my head around like how that would actually work, and like you said, like I don't think there's any realistic way it works. You know what we forgot to talk about, and I'll get to it. Get back to this in a second. How cool was Ghost?
Yeah,
Right?
This is pretty sick.
Going and like
Always.
he only showed I guess killing one guy, but I assume he made bigger impact than that, right?
Yeah, he fucked them up. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, back to what we were talking about.
Well, I think what his plan is that he's going under the pretense of negotiating. Like he wants to talk, right? So he said, and he's going to try to get close enough to Mance that he can.
Really,
kill him.
I don't know. Is that
That's what he said. He said he wants to go there, see if he can talk to him and get close enough to kill him.
okay?
And after that,
They'll kill him, but he's
kill him
okay
for
with
sure. And he's like, it'll be worth the sacrifice.
that. Okay. He gives Sam his sword,
Yeah, because he promised the
wouldn't
Lord
lose
Commander he would never lose it again.
and he did. He lost it in the battle, and he said so. He got it back, and he said, "Okay, well, I already lost it. I already broke my promise. So, all right, you can have it." Although I feel like it's a waste of a really like badass sword,
Yeah.
going. You know what I mean? Like you take like it's one of those something steel, right?
Valyrian
Valyrian
steel.
steel blades, right? That can cut through like books.
Oh, yeah.
So you giving it to Sam, who can't even like swing a sword, is kind of
Well, he came into his own this
yeah, but
episode.
doesn't mean he's a sword fighter. I mean, come
Well,
on now.
maybe it's a step in the right direction.
What if we came back to season 5 and Sam was just like ripped, like he's just like lost so much weight and he looks like Conan the Barbarian or something. I assume that you're laughing. That doesn't happen. That
I
was my
can't tell
prediction.
you. I can't say
That was my
anything.
prediction for next season. Um, okay, so that I think covers the entire episode.
Yeah.
So Dan, give me in a one foul swoop. Why didn't you like season 4, episode 9?
Again, I mean, I've said it a couple times, but I thought it was underwhelming. I thought nothing seemed big enough. Which I mean, it's they've been teasing this for a long time now. We didn't really get a good look at the army proper. We just saw a little bit of the army. There was only one mammoth, only a couple of giants. I understand like they have a budget and they probably can't afford to have like 30 mammoths coming out. It just none of it seemed as big as it was promised it would be. And they mentioned later on the episode that it's just like a preliminary battle. They're just feeling out the defenses. So you would hope that to see more.
Well, we're not
But
going to see that.
none of it seemed as big as I wanted it to be.
It'd be interesting to kind of see if whatever happens with John, how that pans out. To see like another attack on the wall, but from the perspective of like behind enemy lines.
That probably would make it a lot cooler.
Right? Like you're just like we don't need to even use the whole budget. Like you're in the trees, you're in the woods, right? So you don't have to see everyone all the time, and you can get it up right close to the mammoth or whatever.
I mean, they could have done that this episode too. They
No, I know. You know what they did that I thought was really weird, as far as like filmmaking is concerned. They did this weird thing that I just didn't expect Game of Thrones to do, where they like looked over the wall and they did one of those like speed zoom pan things. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah.
And
Like
it was
Battlestar.
yeah, it was like yeah, exactly, just like Battlestar, where like they like someone has a camera in their hand and like zoomed in like super fast onto the guys on the
noticed
wall.
that, yeah.
And it just
I
seemed
thought that was cool. Every time that happens in a show, it gets me like pumped up.
no, it's cool. It just doesn't seem to fit. Like whenever that happens in another show, it always seems like it's like the camera's in a perspective of where someone holding a camera might actually be, you know? So you can like, because it was like Battlestar, they would do it like, it looked like from the ship, you could like look out a window and it would like do a zoom into like fighters, right?
Yeah.
This was like from the perspective of like a Night's Watch, like a Brother of the Night's Watch, like looking over and then like it's zooming in, like he was holding a camera, which obviously no one's holding a camera, which is why I thought that was.
It's just to emphasize the guys on the wall in case you didn't see. It was kind of cool, but like it is weird to just use it once in the entire series. And,
Yeah,
you know,
it's like that's why it was
jarring,
jarring. Yeah. Did I cut you off at all as far as anything else you wanted to say about the episode?
Well, the only thing in terms of like as a book reader is just it's supposed to again be bigger. It's supposed to last a couple days before John makes that decision to go out there, but that's not a huge deal because it would have got boring to say.
Yeah, it was the same thing over and over and over again.
But it's like days and days.
Okay. Well, I mean, here's the thing. I think we could presume that this battle will continue over days and days. I don't think we need to see the whole thing, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. What
I
do
would
I...
have liked to see more, is all I'm saying.
Okay, yeah, okay. I really liked it. I think it's been a while since we've seen some, last week's, like, mono-a-mono fight aside, I think it's been a while since we've seen any large-scale combat on the show. I think, like I said, we haven't seen anything to this scale since Season 2 with Blackwater. Other moments have been jarring in their own right and exciting in their own right, but, you know, the Red Wedding isn't a battle against a giant ice wall. So, what you said is underwhelming is maybe with book knowledge, you have a certain expectation you have a certain expectation as to what this is going to hold or what it's going to be, and you held it to like, you know, put it on a pedestal, and then it just didn't live up to it for you. For me, I didn't know what I was gonna get. I mean, I had an idea, but like seeing like that the scythe come out, like all those different things that they did on the top of the wall, I thought that was all like smart and well done and well executed. I think you actually did see a lot of the money that they spent, like I said, on the screen. You saw a mammoth. Like, when's the last time you saw a moving mammoth on a screen since Ice Age? Like, animated one. And like that's cool stuff. Like, how often you see any giants riding mammoths? Like John says so eloquently.
Giants well,
And like the combat was done really well. My like I said at the top, my complaint is I couldn't really see what was happening a lot of the time, which really bothered me. Like I feel like if you just turn up the brightness a little bit more on that episode, you make things a little bit more clear. I think it's just a better episode in general. I just think it was just really well executed. I would give it like it's not my favorite episode, but it's for sure up there. I like things to come to mind are like that tracking shot. So John jumps out of the elevator, right? And he rolls, and then it pans and it tracks all the way around the whole like
that was
Castle
cool.
Black. And it's like
got everybody. Right?
Yeah, like pretty much everyone
character
doing something, and it was just one solid cut, right? And that was like that's impressive. That's kind of what you want to see when they talk about battles all the time in Game of Thrones, and you never see them. So that's the kind of stuff you want to see every once in a while. It doesn't have to be all the time, but to say it was underwhelming is kind of I don't know.
I think maybe I'm painting like too broad a stroke. They did a lot of that kind of stuff well. Like the smaller things. I'm just saying on a larger level though. Like even the Giants, they did well, but the Giants are supposed to be another tribe. They're supposed to be like their own little regiment. There's supposed to be more of them. I don't know.
I get that.
And the little kid shooting Ygritt, that was fucking dumb.
Yeah, that does bother me. I'll give that. I think Ygritt needed to die in this episode. If you weren't going to kill John, then Ygritt has to die. And I would have liked to. I mean, it would have been better if it was just an older guy who shot her in the back. Like
I guess
it's one of those things again where the show it's like. Large men or large people in this case can get brought down by small things. In this case, it's a kid, and it's kind of like retribution. You know, like she went on this rampage after John betrayed her, and you know, this is what that's what happens when you do these kinds of things. I guess is kind of the message there, because the kid is the one that did it. So I don't know. I liked it. I'm gonna leave it at that. I really did like this episode. So what is next week's episode called? Do you have it? Do you know offhand?
I don't remember. I should.
IMDb. We'll just IMDb it here.
Yeah. I think it's called The Laws. No, that was
no, that happened already.
Something about the father.
It's called The Children.
Oh, The Children.
So next week is episode 10. It's called The Children. Circumstances change after unexpected arrival from north of the Wall. Daenerys must face harsh realities. Bran learns more about his destiny, and Tyrion sees the truth about his situation, which could not be more vague. Yeah. But it's like you might as well just write things happen, people learn things, and the end. Like I'm not expecting much from a synopsis. I don't want it to spoil things anyway. Exactly. But I'm excited.
But there's a lot left on the table for episode 10 that you want to be tied up before the end of the
season. You know what? I think a lot of stuff was actually like if we didn't see Daenerys again, in the season, I think I'd be fine with that, how it ended. Like, that's a good way to wrap it up.
The stuff at the wall, for sure, and the stuff with Tyrion, you need to know.
Yes, those two things, for sure. But I think some of the other stuff, like, if we never saw Ramsay, again, Ramsay, what's his last name?
Bolton now.
Bolton, yeah, Ramsay Bolton, or the Boltons in general. If you never saw them again this season, I think that story was wrapped up nicely.
Yeah, they did that very well.
Especially with that great
Daenerys too,
shot.
I guess, but...
Although we are seeing her next week, but either way, like I think there's the main things I want to see wrapped up. Maybe a little bit of teasing for what to expect from season 5, which I literally no idea. I think so. Just to touch on what I said, I guess last week was my complaint about the show in general, about it being predictably unpredictable. My prediction was right to some degree, right? That they would win today. In this whole event, no one major died other than Ygritt, but like she was never really a main character, right?
Yeah.
So I think my argument still stands.
No, of course.
I think it still does. And until something legitimately
here,
not just.
The show is so predictably or unpredictable or whatever you said.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen next week? There's no fucking way you're going to be able to predict it. I guarantee you.
Yeah, well, maybe. But, like, is it just the opposite of what would normally happen in a...
No.
Like, it didn't. My only... Okay, no. I'm fine with things happening that are unexpected as long as it's done in a method that's, like... this is gonna sound weird, but fair. If you're gonna set up a story in a certain way, you have to pay it off properly.
No, you don't. That's the whole point of this series is that you don't have.
Well, no, but then don't tell the story that way. Then I mean, you know what I mean?
That's the way he wants to tell the story. It's his story to tell.
All right, that's my complaint, which is
That it's unconventional, but it's so unconventional.
Well, no, it's contrarian. That's not just unconventional; it's contrarian, which can be fine. I don't.
It's not what you said. It's not just for the sake of being contrarian. There's a purpose.
I think sometimes it is because he said it with his own two words that he kills off people.
Wants, you want to keep you guessing. That's what you want to do anytime you tell a story.
That's not what I was gonna say. I was gonna say he's like he writes the story and he like thinks about who he wants to kill next. You know, like
no. He never said that.
No, I'm paraphrasing a little bit. Anyway, I don't want to get it. We talked about this last week. I don't want to. I'm sure it'll come back up again.
Yeah.
At that, I guess we can leave it at that. So make sure to tune in to our show next week to listen to us talk about Season 4, Episode 10, The Children. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Tower Babblecast. Like us on iTunes. Rate us on iTunes. Tell your friends to listen to the show. We will see you guys next week. Today's Game of Thrones theme cover was the violin and guitar cover, played by the Hot Violinist on YouTube.